watching the rise. And I wouldn't say I'm shocked cause I'm hardly surprised. This one's for the ride. This one's for who knew I'd make it, just needed some time. This one's for my wife. Could have left 1,000 times just so.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Randy Kaye, and I'm the host of the Caught Up Podcast. Today we have Sean Brashear. He is a coach from the Firecracker organization. He has built up a reputation of competing and winning at the highest level with the Firecracker Brashear brand. He has recently partnered with Tony Rico as the co-head coach of the FC Select team. Sean, it's always great to see you. Thanks for taking the time to catch up.
Yeah, I'm great to see you, brother. I'm excited to be able to do this.
Thanks, man. So what's going on? How's Tennessee?
I love it, bro. It's different, you know what I mean? Growing up in Southern California my whole life, and just kind of time for a change. And so far the travel hasn't kicked my ass too bad, but I love the area and it's been awesome. So I'm really enjoying it.
How is that? So first off, like, what are you doing out there? You just coaching? You just like, what are you doing? You got a job, a business?
I go to bed and I wake up. What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm living, bro.
Living life.
Yeah, living. I'm recently married, and so we'll see round 2 go better than round 1, and but life is good.
Kind of like that old saying, right? I hear everybody say, "Hey, I'm working on my second million," and people go, "Well, oh yeah, I gave up on my first million, so I'm going to work on my second one." So let's talk a little bit about your journey, man. Like, first of all, I obviously I've known you for a long time. Coached together, coached in the same org for a long time, had many conversations. But I didn't know what you did until I looked you up. What is it says you owned a fleet repair business. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had my dad and I started a shop back in like 96. And we did, my dad was in the auto body industry. I couldn't repair anything ever. My dad is like MacGyver. He could build a house out of 2 matchsticks, and I'm lucky to tie my shoes. But somehow, some way I learned the industry, and we kind of made a good team in regards to, getting the contracts and, getting in the auto industry. So, we owned that business. We sold it to a different gentleman that did mechanical work. It was all fleet stuff. So like big companies, Coca-Cola, UPS, Pepsi, busing contracts, fire trucks, all kinds of different things of that nature. So not your Honda Accord, Randy, but the big stuff. And being able to have the mechanical side with the auto body side, which is what we had done, it allowed us, for those contracts, because a lot of those big companies like a one-stop shop. So it gives us a lot more kind of power to go into the bidding, because if they want like a full refurb, as they would call it, they may be doing engine work along with, say, upholstery and a repaint of the truck or trailer. So that was that. And then basically been that since 96. And I've kind of phased out of it. When he bought it, we still stayed on there as employees working within the industry. I still do some consulting for some of the contracts and things that we have in place. And, but it's definitely, something that I don't miss as far as the day-to-day, just because the trucking side was not necessarily always my thing. I just kind of figured out a way to make it my thing. But because it really just come down, what my side was more relationship based, right? Just, being able to know how to talk to people and make it happen. And then starting to understand what the repair side of it was, which was my dad's specialty.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, dude, like, again, I never thought I'd be doing that for 30 some odd years, but yes.
Paid the bills.
That's right.
Put a couple kids through college, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let's talk about your time as so you did the fleet repair, and then you get into, like, what got you into coaching? I mean, I've heard a little bit of a story. Tell me the journey about, like, why coaching softball?
Well, I mean, I played, all sports in high school. Was actually more basketball centric than even baseball, really? Even though I pitched and whatnot. And then, went to Cal Poly, Pomona, for like 2 years, tried to do a little basketball, couldn't last. And that was basically that. I probably should have stayed in the baseball lane. White men can't jump, you know what I mean? So, yeah. But I could shoot the 3, bro. So I'm not gonna try to downgrade me too much. You know what I mean? I was getting right around 20 a game in high school. So, basketball was always kind of my first passion. But my sister played, obviously, again, I played baseball. We had, our high school team had some good runs in playoffs and did all that kind of stuff. And but my sister played softball. She actually played with Leah O'Brien, Amico. And my dad was actually Leah's very first coach. So they were like friends of the family. And Leah and my sister, all those teams that my dad coached back then were like, badass. Leah was a pitcher back in that day, just dominating. They were younger than me. My sister's was like a freshman in high school when I was a senior in high school. So just seeing what they could do as athletes, playing the sport. And honestly, it was always fun, more fun than really kind of baseball, which could be boring and long, and softball was quicker and faster paced. And seeing how good, both my sister was a very good player and Leah was obviously like is a Hall of Famer. It just was there. So then you have kids, and I had 2 daughters, and at the end of the day, the idea of them playing sports was, really kind of a foregone conclusion. Of course, they got to make their choices. Yeah. My oldest one couldn't stand me by the time she was about 13, so she went to soccer. Yeah. I tell her it's because she couldn't hit, but she went to soccer because she says because I was a dick. Right. So I guess depending on what you probably both were true. And then Amanda was a better hitter, so she lasted. She still calls me a dick, so I guess maybe the whole dick thing rings true.
Say it's probably some. There's probably some facts
there. Yeah, they say I'm way nicer now. Like these kids don't have any idea what the 20-year, 25-year journey's been. But so both
it grinds on you, man.
What's that?
It grinds on you. You got to soften up a little bit.
Oh yeah, you become softer as you get older. But they both were very good athletes. I didn't know much about soccer, but the softball side, I love coaching, right? So, and I was just blessed. With that second group, when I had Amanda, even like our little local area, we had a lot of talent, a lot of kids that ultimately went on and played Division I. And, it started there with the rec team that like dominated little all-star stuff. And I took them into travel at 10 and under.
Was that with Crunch?
And kind of the rest was history. And a lot of, it was Crunch, correct. And, had some great teams with that group. And, as we got to 12s, that's when Steve Braden, who had founded Crunch and had done a great job with the Crunch brand, and a lot of great players that had played for him, and including his daughter Angel, who was a great player at the University of Minnesota, basically let me know that they were no longer going to be doing, like the 18s, and there really wasn't that pathway. And at that time, I didn't know where I was heading in regards to kind of like how long this was going to be for me, right? Am I just coaching a few years? Am I going to be doing this for, 20 some odd years? So, my buddy Rafael Ruiz, his daughter Leah had played with my oldest daughter, Vanessa, and she was playing at the time for George Araujo, who had come over from Lakewood to Firecrackers. And so I talked to them, they connected me to Tony. And I guess you'd just say the rest is history, right? Like that was first year 12s is when we joined Firecrackers, and that kind of the birth of Firecrackers Brashear was born. And then, the teams changed. Like those athletes that were on the local, we had some kids that left, and, the team, we were pretty blessed to get a lot of really good players. But the cool part was those kids all came back together, and that I actually got to coach them in high school at Chino High. Where we won 2 CIF championships and played for 3. And, that's where Mike Smith, who's in our program now, he and I started coaching together there at Chino High, and had a lot of great runs. And again, a lot of that core that had started in T-ball kind of got reconnected in high school, because during the travel ball phase, a handful stayed with us, but a few of them kind of went their different pathways based upon what was right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it became that. And then, long version of it, short version of it is just that, the idea of coaching was really just something that I enjoyed, and, we were successful, and there was a, kind of a, I don't want to say a high demand, but there definitely was people wanting to be part of what we were doing, and it allowed us to kind of continue to grow what we were. And we continue to have success and put kids into school and win at the national level and do a lot of cool things and win some championships. And, next thing you know, you look back and, Amanda just got married here last Saturday. So 2 Saturdays ago.
No kidding. Where at?
My in-laws' now backyard.
Oh, yeah.
So it was small.
Is it?
In Moreno Valley.
Okay.
So, and my as I'm there, and then Alyssa Barrera, who played for her, who played for us, and I don't know what played at University of Utah. She's there. She's married. She's pregnant. And it just kind of, full circles you, to the idea that like I'm old, but that these young, what I saw is just little babies in the batting cage at 7, 8 years old. Now they're grown women that are, career with masters, with their education, going to be mothers, wives, and, comes full circle real quick. And that's kind of what still continues to keep that drive for me, is knowing the impact that you're making. And I know you know this well on all the kids and what they become as they move forward. Like I said, it was kind of surreal, to be there. And obviously it's important, and knowing that your daughter's being married, but just in the whole spectrum of what I do, and be able to speak that to our group, even as I went to the field on Sunday after the wedding.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, we have an impact, and I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, is it that connection with the kids and the impact that I feel like we're having? Is that the draw, or is the draw being at the field and competing? I mean, obviously it's probably it's probably both, but what do you think it is for you more? Is it the competing side? Is it the relationship side?
I think relationship is the start. And then obviously once a game is there, your competitiveness is drawn out. And, that side of it will never change. Anytime you're playing, especially when you're playing at a higher level and you get the opportunity to play against so many great teams and great coaches and great players, and then you get to see them go on and do the things that they do collegiately or even internationally. And it's like, holy shit, I remember playing that kid in a national game back in 14s or 16s or 18s. And it's like just knowing all their stories, and that you at some point kind of crossed the paths with them and who they became. And this, the growth of our sport and seeing where it's heading and where it was when we got into it. All those things are a part of it. But again, the core of it is the relationship, right? Is the idea that you get to meet so many different unique individuals and players and people that come through, because everybody's uniquely different. And for me, I'm always been one that's enjoyed that. I've enjoyed getting to know the different personalities, find ways to kind of motivate them and challenge them to be the best versions of themselves. All the things that we're trying to do as a coach, and then uniquely knowing that what I may say to you may not work to somebody else, right? So how do I come up with something that's different beyond just the physical aspect, but beyond that to the mental side, to make sure that this kid leaves the field knowing that, hey, Coach Sean's got my back, and I'm going to be better if I follow his direction, right? And that's something that's always kind of, I guess, been a challenge to me, is I always find it inside of me. Like, I love the part of figuring out how to be able to teach a kid, right?
Yeah.
Because the fundamentals are the fundamentals, and we know things that we're going to give them, but not everybody, how they're motivated and processed to take that information, to me, is something that I've always enjoyed. And so I coach with, a little bit of personality, a little bit of sarcasm, a fucking couple F words, and like that side of it, which is all different. Everybody has their style. Right. Yeah. But for me, I've enjoyed, again, getting to know that. And then the competitiveness is, how can you not be motivated to show up, or be competitive and motivated when you show up on a Saturday or Sunday and you're facing the teams that we've gotten to face, you know what I mean? And the players, like, that side of it is electric,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, cause I mean, you said you started at 10U. I didn't coach. I think I coached my very first travel team at 12. And then I kind of backed out, and then started at 14. But like, do you think coaching kids all the way from 10U kind of like is a benefit to somebody to like go through the whole range of like from 10s all the way to the end? Do you think that's a benefit?
That's a good question. I guess I do. I think, because, people will ask me, like, or want to maybe have or do the things that maybe we are now, like the umbrella and the teams, and kind of like you,
right?
But they kind of want to skip from A to Z, and they want to leave out the middle,
right?
And I don't know if they realize how long it took for it to look the way it does today,
right?
And I couldn't be who I am and do what I do without having the experiences that I've had, you know what I mean? And then the relationships, whether it's Tony and guys like you, like all the different people that I've been able to be lucky enough to conversate with and coach against and coach with and learn from, those are all things that kind of take it, and you learn, like, cause there was things that I did and said at 10U that if I went and watched a coach speak that way to a 10 under team, I'd probably tell the guy he's certifiable, right? Because there was a motor and a competitiveness within me that was there. But I've learned, better on how to speak that out, right? That's something that my growth as a coach and as a person, to know how to be better within how I present myself and teach it, for sure. But I think, the idea of kind of learning the ropes, so to speak, and cutting my teeth, to go do stuff at 10s and 12s and 14s, like full gamut, right? And I really didn't try to be, and that's the other thing, I never really tried to create something. It really just happened organically. You know what I mean? Like I never had a plan of like, I'm going to have a team and this team and I'm going to do this. That was never a plan. Really nothing really came to play until late in, Amanda's career, where we had teams and they were looking for guidance and they had some really talented players, and organizationally kind of talking even with Tony was about like, making sure that we were offering to those level of players what was right for them and needed for them, and then that kind of opened that door. And the next thing you know, it's 2 teams. And the next thing you know, it's 4. And the next thing you know, it's 20. And all of that has happened again without me really pursuing it as much as just trying to live it and breathe it and keep it pulsating the way that it should for the people that are part of it. Mm-hmm. And then obviously connecting with the right people to be part of me that ultimately becomes what we are, because it's not just me that makes an impact or teaches or coaches or makes a difference in all these kids' lives, right? There's so many people that I've been lucky enough to get to be part of what I do, that are part of, the quote unquote Brashear brand. Yeah. And I think that's something, again, for everyone out there is like, if you're that young guy doing it, is like, don't try to go to, Z when you haven't even gotten past the letter, D in the alphabet, right? Like, cut your teeth, have some patience, make sure you know what you're doing before you try to do something that you do, because, we both know like the idea of how to survive in this is beyond just the field. You know what I mean? And that's something that, definitely, I'm grateful for the people that help me understand how to best work with a lot of good people and how to present myself, and, to where now, like, I feel like if I show up somewhere, there's respect, right? There's respect for who I am as that person, but also for what we've accomplished as a brand, our players. I don't feel like you can't go anywhere in the country and say, hey, this is this, and they play for, and they wouldn't say, oh, that's a good program, or that's a good, they handle themselves the right way. And that to me matters in the sense of kind of the respect level, whether it's guys like you, our contemporaries, the college coaches, the event coordinators. That's always been a motivation for me, was to not let our sport down. Right. And to provide something that, people would say, Sean Brashear, made an impact not only on the athletes, but, our sport, and hopefully I'm doing the right things for all the people that are part of this. Yeah, for sure. One of the things about, that comes to mind about coaching from that lower level all the way up to where we're at, the competitive 16s and 18s levels, is I wonder, do you think you learned how to win? Because you've won at every level, 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s. Do you think that like learning how to win at 10s and then bringing that with you and learning how to win at 12s, and like maybe, I don't know if it becomes just like your culture, but like, do you think that that was the other part of the coaching all the way through? Do you think that helped you in any way? Yeah. I mean, I am very much an optimist, so I always believe we're going to win, even when it's dire. And I think that's a speech that's their part, that's it's just kind of innate within me in regards to how I present it to the group. So like, if I feel like there's energy that's not on board with where I'm going in destination, then you won't last long within that journey. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not here for, not that I've never been negative or said something, derogatory, like I'm human, but the reality is, like even down 3, it's like this kid's going to, find a way to get on. They're going to make a mistake. Yeah. We're going to hit a 3-run home run. And next thing you know, we're going to be an ITB. So, realistically, even going all the way back there. And the other thing was, my mind is always about figuring out a way. So like we'd get kids in pickle on purpose and 8 and under, just because I had, I had 2 kids that Amanda was one of them that we practice on how to get and stay in a pickle when we needed it, because we knew at some point in 8 and under, they're going to throw the ball away.
Yeah.
So they would literally just run by the bag, right? And then make them see if they would chase. And if they chase, you know what was going to happen, they'd throw it away. And then people would get mad at me because they think I was doing whatever, but I was going to create any way an opportunity in the competitive mode to try to win games, right? So whether that's bunting, stealing, running, and like I said, 8 and under, it was about the smart kids who had a little bit of speed and could process on how to try to stay in that pickle long enough.
Yeah.
Because once you got to that second or third throw and ate you, the ball was going to hit some parent in the side of the head, and you're getting an extra base or two. So I think the idea of you're kind of creating a mindset of you're gonna win, and here's a plan on how we can win. I think that's something that I try to do. And, I guess we'd say it's worked to some level, right? There's always ways to get better. But at the same time, I definitely believe every time we show up that, there always is a way, bro. There's always a way to figure it out, even against, maybe if we're overmatched a little bit physically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, there's always a way. And I think you've created that culture already. So that's already ingrained now. I mean, but just coming up, I feel like, there had to be some growth every time, and then, hey, that worked or this didn't work, and then the expectation just grows. So no, that's good stuff. Let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned it's not just you. We all know that. Number one, two things actually. You said that staying in this game or being coaching or moving through the ranks. Number one, it's there's more than just the field stuff. There's a lot of effort that goes on behind the scenes. And when you're doing that, you have to have a team. You have to have people that have your back. And you've got, the guys that I know that I've seen for many years, like Manny and Roman and Lon and Mike Smith, those guys I've known for a long time and seen you for a long time. Doug Myers, Mark Thornburg. You got a bunch of guys. Tell me a little bit about, we don't have to go into detail with every one of them, but like, how satisfying is it to have that? That's a coaching staff, dude, right there. Tell me a little bit about your guys and what they do for you behind the scenes.
Really everything. And I think it starts with trust and respect. You know what I mean? Like, we've always had a very open idea of, and for most that know these guys, especially, the personalities that they all kind of are, there's been some fun and awkward conversations, you know what I mean? And, / arguments. But it's always been like, we're allowed. I try to make sure that we all understand that we can be real.
Yeah.
And if there's something that we want to speak about, that we say it. We try not to make that happen on a field or in front of others just because it's not the place.
Right.
But behind the scenes, like if there's a conversation on the phone, in person, whatever, like that, like I'm not here to dictate, I'm here to delegate and find ways, and then also empower them to be successful. And in some ways, in a lot of ways, they teach me all the time. So everybody has strengths, and, whether it's on the field or on the phone or, Roman, for example, does a lot with our recruiting, and he knows the ins and outs and is as good as anybody in the country when it comes to being able to network and help for our athletes. Coach Mike Smith's been doing this 35, 40 years, high school championships, national championships. So again, when it comes to game acumen, of course, Doug Myers is a legend beyond a legend. And then, Steve Harrington was with us, and he passed away here a couple of years back. That was obviously a devastating time for us. But I've learned so much from, and then Tony, and, what Tony's allowed. And I say that is because he empowered me to allow me to empower others. Right. So, I know in certain organizations or different places, maybe this wouldn't have transpired out the way that it did. And a lot of that credit goes to Tony for, trusting that I could, build a brand and create a brand and have success, and not feeling like that wasn't going to be a detriment to what was the Firecracker brand, because truly I've always wanted to uplift it. Right. I hope that, when people look at the Firecracker organization, they look at it in a certain way. And when they think about what, Sean Brashear and the players and coaches that are part of Brashear have done, have hopefully enhanced that, right? To where they say there's respect. Again, respect. That's a huge thing for me. I don't need everyone to like me. You know what I mean? I get that. That's the world we're all in. Not everybody likes everybody, but I would hope that there's respect. You know what I mean? And for that, I work hard, and so does my staff. And kind of, again, going back to those guys, it's the thing I'm probably the most proud of is not only the staff, but like the alumni that want to come back and be part of things and go help on during the summer. Because to me, the fact that they stay around tells me that hopefully that I'm doing something right, that I'm treating them the right way, that they're getting funded the right way, because there's always an element that people got to understand that, we love the sport, but funding has to be part of this too, right? Everybody's working very hard to make a difference in these athletes' lives and to put them in positions now to go get NILs and whatever's going to be next in our sport. And there's a lot of really, again, professional people that know what they're doing that have made a difference. And I'm blessed because I get to say that they're my staff, right? That they work with me and they help me every weekend. And I don't have to be at every practice or every field. I don't have to be on every phone call, because I trust that if Roman's on that call right now, that he's representing our kid and our brand the way that it would. If Mike's coaching a game, he's running it the way and he's winning at a level, which he has been able to do. All of those things are where you can really, like, that's when you feel like, okay, this is pushing itself out in a way. That's why it's had success. Because if it was just me, bro, there's no way. You know what I mean? There's just no way. It wouldn't have been able to be what it has ultimately become.
Yeah. I think that's key, having that core group of guys that you can trust, that are going to have your back. They're going to do things the way either you want them or the way that you've all agreed that this is how we're going to run things. That brings me to another kind of thing I was going to ask you. A lot of people like you have gone on and done, built their own brands. I mean, obviously you have the Brashear brand, which is a brand within the brand, right? I think you separated that as being what it is. It's a highly competitive group. You could easily change the name and it could be something else. Tim, I wanted to ask you, because a lot of people have done it. People have moved on and built their own brands and done their own thing.
You did.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. So what is, and we've talked about that a little bit, but what has kept you kind of moving that direction and staying within the Firecracker brand?
Bro, if I had $1 for every time anyone asked me that question, I'd have enough money to not even have to do this, because right. it's like that $1 million question. And, and I would say, like, well, I'm human, right? So the idea of thinking in that element has definitely been there and probably will never go away. But I would also say that I respect where I'm at, and I've enjoyed where I've been and the level of treatment that's been there. For Tony and I, and we've had hard conversations over the years, right? I wouldn't say it's always been like this, but it's definitely been built upon respect. And that in itself is, again, where I kind of built at the core, is that level of respect. And I also always felt like if I can't get what I need here, then maybe that would be different, but it's always been able to happen. Yeah. And then I also like that maybe I'm different, right? Like that, respect to everybody that has done what they've done. And it's been right probably for them and for you and your situation. And we had great conversations back through this whole thing. And I, 100% support your success and the things that you're doing, and for everybody else. But, you're not in my shoes, just like I'm not in yours, and I have to make those decisions. And for me, I've always felt like I'm a little bit different. And the idea that maybe this could be possible, because I don't even know if it's been possible, done kind of the way that this is happening, right? Meaning that there hasn't been a branch off to a different organization, a different level of representation. And I know, in some people's eyes, they may say, well, Brashear is its own kind of organization, in some ways of operation, but in theory or in reality, no. Like in reality, we're firecrackers, and right. we present that, we represent that, and we're proud of it. And obviously now with Tony and I, coming together to coach together, it's even more so than it's ever been when it comes to, who I am and what I support and what I'm here to be able to make an impact to. But, to say again, it hasn't ever been on a table from others or hasn't gone through my brain late at night or early in the morning, or I'm a human being. Right. You know what I mean? You're looking at all angles. And for me, the one thing, I've never been inhibited to be able to impact my players and to be able to get them trained and competing at the highest level. I've never been hindered for recruit. It's always been, I always felt like it was my responsibility to achieve to the highest level that I could possibly be. And I was never even people say, oh, I guess like Tony versus Sean. I had no agenda to be, to beat Tony, be better than Tony. I have an agenda to beat everybody. Right. Like I want to win every game I fucking play. I don't give a shit who it is. Yep. You know what I mean? And that's because I know how hard it is and the respect. So if I have an opportunity to win a game against all these great coaches and all these great teams, and we're doing something at that level, that was my goal. Never to be, better than this or that. I wanted to be the best that we could be. And the best that we could be was to push ourselves nationally, to beat everybody, or at least be in position. And again, we've lost games, for sure, right? We haven't won every game we played. We haven't won an 18 and under national championship. We've been close. We've knocked on that door for really over a decade. And, we're proud of those accomplishments. But at the same time, trust me, it motivates me to be able to get to that last one, right? And I think it does for all of us if we're competitors, right? We all want that fucking last one.
Yep.
And, I hope that answered the answer, but reality has been, again, I feel like it's right. You know what I mean? And ultimately, when it's not, maybe there'll be something different. Maybe it's Rogue Brashear. I don't know. But, the idea of doing what I'm doing kind of day to day, and I even remember the very first time when there was more, because when I joined in, there was like 5 or 6, Firecracker teams. So I remember going to the first meetings at Tony's warehouse, and there's literally like 6 guys, right? Guys and girls. And, then started getting more teams. And, I think I went to home plate and an umpire said, oh, another Firecracker team. And I just remember my response. And, I don't feel like I'm too cocky, but I can be. Sometimes I said, there's only one fucking Brashear.
I knew where that was going, because I've been in that situation, and I felt the same way.
And even for our players, and that's the representation of them. I want them to create their own identity, right? Every time they take a field, and, they become, and really truly what has become this brand and our kind of aura has been built through the players. They bought into it and they wanted to be it, and they represent it to the fullest. And I'm proud that it means something to them, that if they say, who do you play for? They want to say the name.
Yes.
Right. They want to say the name. And to me, that's who I'm doing it for. You know what I mean? I'm doing it for those athletes. I'm doing it for those kids, so that when they know that they're training, that, hey, my coach has got my back. He's going to bust his ass for me. He's going to get me in the right position to be successful and to win games and to get to school and to all those things. And also, and this, probably dealing with it from your side, is like, bro, I get many calls from alumni in school that are in college, and they're not talking to me about softball. They're talking to me about life. So you become more than just the softball person. You're the mentor. You're your ability to be able to listen to them and to help them when they're maybe going through something that's not the easiest thing in the world. And, for me, those all have become something that means something to me. And it's what makes me do it, bro. At the end of the day, I will take the relationships that I've been able to have, the alumni, the staff, over, I put that up there against anything beyond, of course, my own blood, and when it comes to my daughters and whatnot, and my wife, and, but the reality of what that is, bro, it's so meaningful to me, and I'm so very proud of them, and that it means something, that they got to wear a Firecracker Brashear uniform.
Yeah, it's rewarding, man. It truly is. And we've had, like you said, and I think I mentioned, we've talked about lots of things over the years, and there's good and bad. I mean, I think I told you that the day I realized, I'm like, shit, there's really no one to blame but me now. There's no more pointing up. There's no more that, hey, this is what Tony wants, or this is what whoever said we have to do. It's all on you. So no, I respect you. That I've always wondered, how that looked in your eyes, but that's good stuff. Let's talk about your new role with Firecrackers. Obviously, you and Tony have combined to form the Select team. I had Tony on the other day. He was just praising you as far as what you bring to the table and what your staff brings. How's that going for you,
bro? It's been awesome. I think, just like in any relationship, there was that I think the first year was the toughest, will probably be the toughest, just because, each of us brought over our athletes that we had. And it's almost like in a relationship when a dad brings his 3 kids into the Brady Bunch, right? And then the wife brings her 3. So his kids kind of look to his answers, and my kids look to my answers. And we were having to get to the point, and I remember telling the group at one point, is look, you guys got to quit fucking looking around and just realize that you got 2 good people to be able to help you. Just like we know we have good athletes. It don't matter where you were. It matters where you are. And this is where you are, and I think that side of it, this year's less of that, right? Just because the newness is gone, right? The idea of oh, Sean and Tony, are they really going to be able to coach together? And, even that question, I'd get another $1 million of, how is it like coaching with Tony? And are you guys, because they're waiting for us to probably blow up, and who knows, but bro, fucking maybe it'll happen. I don't think so. I think we are both real enough with each other. And you know me, bro, very well, Randy, you know how I am. It's hard for me to not be who I am. It's hard for me not to be very real. So like, if I'm mad, if I'm sad, am I happy? Like I'm not a hard book to read and to translate. So with that, I think it's definitely helped for us to be able just to kind of speak things out whenever there's been those moments. And then obviously, bro, his acumen and his ability to teach and to be able to provide things for the players, it only enhances anything that I could ever have or do. Right. And then now it's just a matter of both of us knowing when and, kind of when, because we've been the alphas, the lead voice, so it's like putting together two good rock bands and both lead singers want the microphone. Right. So like, okay, who's going to sing first and who's going to sing second, or how are we doing this? Yeah. So Eddie Van Halen and I mean, I was David Lee Roth and fucking Sammy Hagar, right? Like, who gets to sing each of the songs? And, so I think with that, we've definitely kind of gotten to where it's at and respecting what we both kind of are. Like, we have a lot of the same thoughts, but they're probably presented very uniquely differently. And I think that's kind of been fun, right? Is allowing us to get to the same place, but in different ways. And then seeing how that kind of helps teach the kids and prepare them in ways to be successful. So whether it's a teaching moment on fundamentals, or whether it's like a training moment of competition, like functionality, what are we trying to accomplish with a certain task in an inning, right? Those are all things that maybe I'm going to speak it out completely different than maybe he would, but we actually have very much the same vision, right? Yeah. And I think that's been fun for us both to kind of learn from each other on like, oh, where's he going here? And then like, oh, yeah, okay. And then like you steal from it, right? Like, I mean, we all know, like we all steal, right? Like,
for sure.
Plagiarism is the greatest form of flattery. So the idea that I would take anything from anybody, of course I am, bro. I'm going to steal from you. You know what I mean? I got a podcast. I'm starting it like in 2 weeks.
Hey, funny thing you bring that up. I was going to actually say, I don't know why every organization doesn't have one. Every head, and I'm going to put this out there right now. Anybody looking to do it, hit me up because I'll share exactly what I do. And I've got people that can help too. So, putting that out there. But let me ask you this. Is there ever any like good cop, bad cop? And if so, like which one are you?
Oh, I think I'm probably more a bad cop. You know what I mean? Like I'm probably more emotional based than Tony that way. Although I'm not like at a level of some, like Mike Smith, who's with us, in our program, Mike's more so, but it'd probably definitely be me.
Huh. How's the staff meshed? Because I know it looks like you got Lon over there.
Yeah. So Lon's competent, and we bring Mike in sometimes. And, again, the one thing that we've, like I told Tony when this happened was like our dugouts have been just open, meaning like, bro, if I walk up and the 16s are playing, I walk in the dugout, and, if Mike walked up to the 18s, he walks in the dugout. And I'm not saying all of our teams and coaches do that, but like at kind of the upper levels, and those guys that are staff members, like there is no, because if Mike walks in and he sees that the kid had a big lead at second base and we pick her off 2 pitches later, well, I want his eyes, right? Like at the end of the day, like, more eyes, the better. And if you see something, tell us, because I'm not here to tell you that I'm the smartest guy in the world. I just want to win the fucking game. Right. So if you see something, give me the information and then we can try to execute it. And I think with that, like it's meshed well, because again, when you have more eyes, bro, you're seeing things, you know what I mean? Whatever that because whatever I might have missed, maybe you got to see it. And vice versa. So, for sure. I think that part of it has been, again, kind of the fun part of it in regards to, again, styles. I think I cuss way more. You know what I mean? So that end of it, yeah, bro. I
didn't realize that.
My mom has told me she thinks I'm such a beautiful person, but that my language is the one thing. And I say, well, it's because of fucking poor upbringing, right? Like if it wasn't for my fucking parents being so poorly driven to get me to who I am, I wouldn't cuss, right? I'd probably be a better human being. So I blame them.
Yeah, for sure.
But
not cable.
No. No, not cable,
not
but
cable.
so I think it makes it fun, bro. It makes it to where there's, the differences, what makes the world great is all the different unique people, right? The way that we speak, the way that we are, and even like coaching, like I was saying before, the ability to be able to connect with a kid who has a different personality than what is typical, that to me, that I enjoy it. I enjoy trying to find the way into that kid in her mind and her heart to find the best way to train her and teach her and motivate her and make her become, the best player she can possibly be. So, but it's been good, bro.
Yeah. When you talk about having those extra eyes, I mean, even like, the feel, like coach walks in and they can just kind of feel things happening, hey, that third baseman's, a little bit too, she needs to get off the line a little bit here, or, maybe you didn't realize there was 2 outs. Hey, we need everybody back or whatever. But like, I agree. Like right now, to me, that's what I'm trying to put together a little bit more at the older ages, with my group. And so like, I really envy that. I think I think you got some good guys. And yeah, so tell me, was there any pressures for you, jumping, into that group with Tony? Was there any pressure on your end to feel like it had to be something? Did you feel that outside or internally at all?
No. Bro, I've done this too long, and I'm not saying I'm, fucking John Wooden, but we've won at a level high enough and continuously at all ages to where, what I do and how I do has been established. And again, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I just know what I do. And I have the confidence that every time we show up at and I know what our national events, we plan for like 2 events, bro. Like, we may not win the Monster Mash, and whatever the hell it is. But when we go to Colorado and we go to nationals, whatever that is, which of course is Alliance now for us, those are the driven moments. And for us, again, our resume is not as deep as everybody's, but it's definitely not bad.
It's
bro.
up there.
You know what I mean?
It's up there.
And to me, those are things that, whether I was, standing next to Tony or standing next to you or standing next to whoever the hell it would be, I have the same level of confidence every time I go to that third base box that I'm going to figure out a way to win a game. Right. And then we're going to have the athletes help us figure out that way to win a game. So no, I mean, if anything, it's a level of motivation to like, I know organizationally what it would mean for Tony and I to do stuff together. Because I think there's been people have asked for it. That stuff like, why don't you guys do more together? And
right.
So I think really for that side of it, I feel like it would be good for our organization for that side of it. But in regards to like, I'm going to sleep good at night, bro. I got a hot new wife, bro. I'm happy, bro. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go home. And I'm going to get, she loves me and she wants to give me a kiss, dude. Like, fuck, bro. Like whatever's going to happen during the game is going to happen. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that I haven't gotten mad or haven't been disappointed or haven't been extremely excited. I've had it all happen. Right. But it's not going to become what I become. Right. There's pressure, that side of it. There isn't that. I felt that like back in the day, you know what I mean? And definitely, coaching, at the younger ages and getting to the 16s and 18s and trying to kind of prove myself, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I can go win these games. And our team can. And, but that has passed itself, through time. And some of that, bro, truthfully has come because I've had, again, guys like Steve Harrington and Doug and Mike to where you feel their confidence of having been through those moments, so even as I was maybe, because they're all older than me and done this longer. So like I was able to kind of understand the idea of certain things on when they would do stuff, maybe in a game or in an event, and knowing how to raise the level. Mike was awesome, at Chino High, kind of getting to understand his note taking and his ability to kind of, have the information before we'd even play somebody. And it was from just note taking, like something as simple as having a yellow fucking 99-cent pad that he would write down things so he knew how to be prepared to win against a certain team, a certain opponent, kid, whatever. And so you just learn, you know what I mean? You learn and then you trust. Then once you've done that, you kind of have, again, now it's at a point where it's just the confidence that there isn't much I probably haven't seen. So at the end of the day, you go out there, you do what you do. And, sometimes I get them thrown out and sometimes they're safe. You know what I mean? Like it's what you do.
It's the way it goes. I know you talked a little bit about, you enjoying trying to motivate kids, and there's that, the fundamental side. But speaking of that fundamental side, or speaking strictly softball physically, what do you think is your best attribute, or what are you best at when it comes to development?
Wow, good question. And I'd probably say my athletes are better to answer that. But I think, over time, it's funny because in the beginning I did a little bit of everything. Like I coached third, I called all the pitches and, that stuff. And back in the early part, I always felt like pitch calling was like kind of going to be my thing, and I enjoyed it. And then over time, like we got guys like Harrington who kind of like that was his. So I kind of, and then I had more responsibilities with having more teams. So I kind of would, sometimes I'd leave a game because I'd have to go help another team. So calling pitches, you got to be really involved in the moment, and you can't jump in and out of it. Right. So then it became kind of like the third base side of things. Right. So the offensive side. So we did that. It was kind of like that transition over where, I felt like the early years of me was based, we did a lot of defensive stuff and a lot of pitching, a lot of pitch out, a lot of throws. I mean, we did a lot of things that back in Amanda's like early years of play. Over time, like my role has become more of the offensive guy, you know what I mean?
Okay.
To where, and then learning from guys like Mike and watching guys like Rob Weil and trying to be creative, Doug Myers, like all the different guys that have. So now it's like really kind of looking at a field and visually seeing, where I feel like we can expose a team. Right. Yep. And then being able to take the athlete and teach them functionality to that, to that exposing. Right. Because it's not just, hey, we're trying to hit the ball over the fence right now. Now we may just need a ball and play. And this is how we're in what kind of pitch we're facing. So to me, I think, I guess I give long answers, but the reality I'd say is more to that offensive side. And I really now enjoy, again, trying to have a game plan of like, okay, how are we going to expose? I always feel like there's an answer. So no matter what kind of coverage, what kind of athlete, what kind of pitcher, like to me, it comes down to if we can execute our style, we can create chaos. And then within that, create some opportunity to score runs, because you know how hard it is to hit elite pitching, to get multiple hits in a row, to potentially hit a home run. Those are all fucking awesome. I want them all the time. But I love the idea of, again, trying to be creatively thinking and then creating that functionality as a unit on being able to do that. So I think that would be where I kind of gravitated to, and I'd say would be my strength. Players like Cheese, that's at Oklahoma State right now.
Yeah.
That was with Fullerton and led the country in stolen bases. Like she's the epitome of like kind of the style of player that I enjoy. Brooklyn Carter, that's now at Baylor, that was at Washington. These are kids that are, chaos makers.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like they're not hitting home runs, but bro, they're every pitch caller's and defense's worst nightmare when they're in the box or on the bases.
Tough outs, man. I remember those kids. Tough outs. How much do your teams practice?
You talking a certain age or, let's just go with a 14U team. They do more than I'd say the older age. That's the one thing with our sport, with the showcasing and then high school ball. Truly, I wish we could practice more, you know what I mean? Especially for like the older ones. 14s have more of a regular schedule because they're young enough to, and they're more local. Our older teams, we get a lot of, we may have kids from out of state, out of area. And it becomes a little bit more harder dynamic to be able to make happen. So you have to trust that they're doing their own work, and then you bring them together on those weekends and you do what you do. But the younger, like the 14s, they're gonna have 2 weekday nights and the weekends. So they're typically, and then they have their individual work, but they're usually like a defensive night, an offensive night, and then practice on Saturday, some games on Sunday or a tournament. And then of course these kids have, most of them have hitting instructors and have, or their pitcher, they got a pitching lesson and so on and so forth. So, typically, at that age, they're getting in, 4 nights through the program, and then probably one night, maybe even 2 nights on their own.
Yeah. Do you guys prefer your kids to hit with you or field with you?
We don't make it mandatory. It's all optional. We have those things available to us, and most of my staff are all instructors. So they are there, but they make their livings primarily through their lessons. So therefore, some of them, like even a guy like Mike, he gives a lot of lessons to kids that aren't necessarily our kids, right? And so we've never made it mandatory. We make it optional. We give them the opportunities, but we've been blessed to where we feel like it's never gotten to a place to where we had to micromanage that. I'm not saying it's not been in our conversations, because for sure it has, and I know others do it, and probably they're doing it better than what we are, but ultimately at this point in time, we have not done that. Again, we just we provide it, and then they have the choices of being able to take advantage of it.
What happens when that kid or that group that's not utilizing you, or when it's somebody in your staff, what happens when that team's not performing? Because I know for me, that's probably when you guys are at most going, man, like we got to change something. Is that right? Yeah,
the national level players, I've always said it like this: like when we recognize that what you are is not equaling what we are, then we're going to have the conversation about what you're doing, right? And so if that's that, the younger teams are so in many cases are still so developmental, that I wouldn't say that. And truthfully, like I'm not with them on a regular basis. I'm getting information. I'm watching some AGL clips. I'm kind of following, from a bird's eye view, so to speak, but I'm not coaching every practice. Right. So, if there's teams that are having those issues, then you have a conversation in regards to kind of what their point of operation is. Right. Yeah. And what is their, really some of it is what is their goals, because if they aren't minded to think that they want to be a collegiate athlete, then their training is probably going to not get there. Because if they have, the goal of what we've always tried to be is like a collegiate prep program, right? So if you're playing for us, your goal is to play college, whether it's at Oklahoma, Arizona, or it's at Biola or Concordia, right? We've had kids go to all four of those schools, right? So like the idea of putting them in school is our goal, and the idea of coming through our program and playing for whether it's myself, or we have the Brashear Hicks teams that are out of San Diego that have done an amazing job and sent many kids to great schools. Like, I try to hopefully put our program together to where there's the ability for every player to be impacted by it, and not just that, like the last 2%, right? Now we have that team and we have those players, but we also want to make sure that we're hitting the mark for those that might not be in that 2 to 5% level of a player.
Right. When you guys kind of run down for me, because I was curious about this, how do you handle, like, let's say it's late July and you're just coming back from nationals and you got to start, reloading, the teams, there's going to be movement. What does that look like for the Brashear brand in terms of, like, is it one massive tryout? Do you start placing kids on teams? Do you have certain coaches that are like, hey, we got first pick? How does that work for you guys?
Usually it starts with me saying I want to fucking quit because it's the end of the summer and you're tired.
Right.
And then you look and you're like, I got to do fucking tryouts. That's like,
we all go through it.
Fuck me. But, we've been pretty blessed. And I think, the one thing that we try to do is be very communicative to our players and families to where they have an understanding of kind of what the operation is. So they receive emails that kind of give them the information of what's going to be upcoming for the next season. And then we do a tryout, like returning athletes from the core part of teams that are more like in the inner functionality of what we, myself or Mike and things of that nature, we have more eyes on them. They won't try out. They'll be, we'll know what their plan is. Then, and then from that, yes, we take the tryout plus the players that we're returning, and we look to start to put them in the best position for them as well as for us. Like I always tell them, it's a two-way street, right? You want what's best for your athlete. We want what's best for our program. You should want what's best for our program, and we should want what's best for your athlete, right? And when those are all together, and so those conversations are had, to where we're like, look, the decisions, this is where the placement was, and it was for this, reason, so on and so forth. But, the one thing I'm very proud of is, our retention rate is like in the 90%. So, a season ends and we send out an email, basically like a not returning email. And all they have to they don't have to give us a story and tell us how, Coach Sean, you're a big jackass and we don't like you. Or a story about how, Coach Sean, you're the greatest ever and we love you and we're staying. All you have to say is returning, not returning. And if you put not returning, I'm not going to call you. No, I don't do babies. I don't do maybes. It's yes or no, bro. Like if someone calls and says, "Hey, we're gonna go
See
whatever,"
ya.
like, "Hey, we appreciate it. Good luck."
Yep.
I'm not a maybe guy, bro. It's yes or no. And I feel like I've done this long enough to where that's a level of respect. And if you're testing the waters, then the reality is that it's best for you to go. And truthfully, bro, I probably have lost athletes because we haven't been willing to kind of, go a certain route that way. But I feel like it's a disrespect to the other athletes, the ones that are committed in and the ones that are dialed in, like that I would, that my energy is going to be going away from them to try to hold on to something that really doesn't even want to be there or potentially doesn't want to be there. Not that we're not open to conversations and we can't have those things. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking more of that extreme where you kind of already know the writing on the wall. You know what I mean? And it's like those kind of things are what they are, bro. And trust me, sometimes it's the right reason. You know what I mean? Truthfully, like there's times where we said, look, you're probably going to be in a better situation over there, just based upon whatever that may be. And I think that's the case for a lot of families, whether they're in another organization and they might benefit to be in a different one, whether it's ours or anybody else's. I think that, I'm smart enough to realize that, like, I'm not necessarily the answer for everything, and nor is probably anybody else. It's just about being the right answer for those people when you are being asked that, right? And but again, the one thing I'm very proud of, going back to that, was just that we've been able to retain so many athletes that it's literally going to be 95%, 98% returning. And sometimes I'll even tell Roman, like, bro, this is a good problem, right? Like, now we got to figure out all these kids, but it's a compliment to our staff. It's a compliment to the program and to the fact that kids want to be here. And that's what's also, going back to your question about what motivates me, that's what motivates me. The day nobody wants to be doing what I do, then I would recognize that I'm probably what I've done is now past, right? But there's still people that say, hey, Coach Sean, they're still wanting to show up for tryouts and come to our teams and play on our rosters and go compete at nationals with us and, earn scholarships and all those things. And as long as that continues to happen, like, bro, like, why would I not be there to support this? Like, again, the kid we had commit last night, bro, it's a kid that's been in our program since she was 10 years old.
No kidding.
And the opportunity to hear the call from her and the energy in her voice and knowing that good things were happening for her, like, bro, like, you can't be more than, lost for words because you're so excited for what is for them. You know what I mean? So,
yep. Let's talk about recruiting. What events are you guys going to this year? And you can start with the select team. Like, where are you guys going to be? You mentioned Colorado and Alliance. What else? Anything else?
Yeah, we start Zooming in June.
Zoom, yep. And
then we have our own event, the Brashear Invitational, which you're invited, so you better show up. And that's over Father's Day weekend.
Yes. I'm coming this weekend. Are you going to be there?
Yeah.
At Mike's? Yeah, next weekend at Mike's event. Yeah. Cool.
Yep. Dude, who do you think's doing the schedule?
I figured that. That's why you guys are being so lenient on me.
I'll make sure you got like 3 game breaks.
Yeah, please do. Actually, I do have one request, and Mike will share it with you, but hopefully we can get that taken care of. I got 2 groups coming.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm bringing a 14 and 16.
Yeah, I think he sent me the whole list of it, so we should have it done by tomorrow.
Cool. Hey, I actually have a question on that. Is there I've been getting fire notices from some of my parents. We should be fine, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's all
okay.
Good.
Okay.
I mean, pray,
right.
Bro. Like, there's been some, and we've had a family in our program that's been impacted.
No kidding.
Lost a home, bro. Very sad.
That's terrible.
In the Altadena area.
That's terrible.
So it's been very hard. But the area that we're in, that's not where the fires are.
Right. Up in Riverside, down in Rosetta.
Yeah. So we should be good.
No air quality.
And obviously we'll update.
Somebody sent me an air quality thing. No. They're like, hey, anybody with asthma, you should let them know. And I was like, I'm on it. And really, I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Right.
Like, I don't.
Yeah, there's issues. We'll definitely update everybody. Like 2 weeks ago, we definitely sent out some emails and I where we were going to be at, and everything came back from the cities that you're fine. And because, the schools, they shut down the cities, but the schools were, they were still open to sports. And, and my guy, like Rick, who coaches our 14s, he's the head coach at Norco High School. So, I can get information from him, and they haven't shut down their activities yet. Cool. You know what I mean? So that in itself should be good.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm going to bring a couple teams down and see if we can have a little fun. I'm going to get a look at a bunch of my younger kids, so I'm excited. But yeah, so back to the
summer schedule. Yeah, Patriot games. And then Colorado with Triple Crowns event. And then Alliance.
Yeah.
So basically a quick summer.
Do you ever, so with your other teams, do you have anybody going to the Midwest or back East or anything like that? Because doesn't it feel like most of the schools are, I mean, obviously all the SEC schools, there's a lot, Midwest, back East. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. We did Florida. We do Florida every year in November.
Yep.
And, that's a huge event.
Yep.
And definitely has opened, some doors and even relationships in regards to the recruiting aspect of it. Summertime, we typically have not, we've been invited to, pretty much all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, we've been very fortunate to where the pathways for the athletes have kind of been able to be taken care of within how the scheduling has gone. And obviously we go to Indiana, you know what I mean? So in that sense, it basically, kills that bird, you know what I mean, right there. Like we're able to get the schools there and when we go back to Indiana. So, but we, over the years we've gone Scotty's event in Texas. We've done, obviously now we're going to Florida. I've been to Atlanta. So there is, we definitely have done them.
Yeah.
This particular season it's not on our schedule, but obviously Indiana and Alliance has definitely helped that in a little bit because there's probably schools that'll go to there that might not have trekked out to California just because of budgeting or whatever. That could hopefully make or potentially be a school for a kid that's still looking.
Yeah, no, I think, I forgot about where Alliance was at. So that definitely takes care of that and probably brings a lot of opportunity for all those big schools because everybody I talk to, they're going to be there. You know what I mean? All the schools that, you'd want to get in front of, and even those that, are maybe on the second level down or even third level for some kids, those schools are going to be out that way because it's just easier to get to than, Colorado or California or whatever. What's your take on recruiting right now, out just in general? Is it harder right now?
I think so. It's obviously everything keeps changing. It's always been changing. And, going back to, Amanda got committed in 8th grade, when she committed and, which I'm glad that's not happening now because definitely some kids weren't, most kids weren't prepared to make a decision at that age. But, the NIL and the portal have definitely changed the landscape. And we got kids that I think in certain years, I could give examples of where they translated to and we're still trying to find a home, you know what I mean? And it's like really good players and it's, but definitely that end of it's different. I think you're going to see more and more JUCO stuff coming, with this whole thing and, which, baseball model has been there that way for years. And, realistically there's a lot of great JUCOs out there, and places to learn and play and develop and it might be right. We've actually, had a kid that just went out of one this year that was from our program that's now got her self-planted in a good place. And so I think those are there, but for the end of the high school spectrum and like those families that are through it, it's definitely, challenging, more challenging than probably ever, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Right. And I would say, here's the thing, 100% of our athletes have gone on to play college softball.
Yep.
Every single one of them. So there's never a never. The ones that didn't was because they stopped playing softball.
Right.
They decided on their own. But there's always a place for the athlete. And so that in itself is just sometimes it takes longer for certain ones than others. And I tell them all the time, there's no correlation to one's happiness based upon when you commit. Right? Like we've had kids that commit early and they didn't necessarily enjoy their experience. And I got a couple examples of kids that literally committed in their senior year in Colorado, and they went on and had a great career and loved where they went. And so the stress that they went through, yes, during that period of time, that kind of was a pain in the butt for them. But ultimately, what was the bigger picture was them being in the right place, getting what they needed, and being happy through their experience. And again, no correlation as to when you decide, it's making the right decision. And that's stuff that I try to make sure the families hear and then give them the examples of kids that we've had come through our program that they don't know because everyone's journey is different. That. And it's like, look, you only see her now on TV. Well, this kid there was all kinds of bumps in her recruiting road. You know what I mean? And now you see her doing great. And it's because realistically that's possible. Your first day of school in college is going to be when it's going to be. And it makes no difference when you fucking commit.
Right.
Right. Like it's going to be when it's going to be. September 5th, whatever the hell date that is, August 18th, whatever the hell the day is, it's going to be that day. So don't, stress beyond more than you need to. Just focus on the things that you do day in and day out. Stay where your feet are. All those things that people talk about. Do your training, get good grades, be a good person. If you do those things, you're going to play softball.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of but it definitely for our side of it. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel? Right. Like I would ask you back, right. If, what's your take on the landscape of it?
I feel like it's getting harder. I feel like, there's, I'll give you an example. Like I've got a bunch of 26s that, maybe weren't ready, in terms of like being able to be at their best or show in that moment when they got opportunities. They may not have been in the right situation, coach wise, organization wise. But I keep talking to them, and it's funny because in the fall you talk to some coaches and they go, hey, we're done with 26s, or, we're on a holding pattern, right? We're in a holding pattern on 26s. And then it's funny because now some of these kids, 3-4 months in, they got a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. I'd like to say they've gotten better. And then they go to camps, and the phone, the very next day the phone rings and they're like, hey, yep, that kid is what you said. And look, we are in a holding pattern. We know we were kind of not looking at 26s, but we want to watch her a couple games in the summer. And we think we really like this kid and we're going to pick her up. So I think for me, it's just kind of navigating through, because, I mean, let's be honest, the coaches don't even know what they need right now. Like, I know there's some 26s that committed, but, they were on the radar. They were kids that, and those are certain kids. But for everybody else, I think being patient and just, like you said, being where your feet are, control what you can control, work on your craft, train, get better, get stronger, be a good person. I mean, to me, those are only things you can do. And then be ready when the moment is there, and be ready when, that coach did find out that she lost an outfielder, and all of a sudden, oh my God, now I got to have a 26 to replace that kid because that was a freshman. And she just, had the season of her life and is moving on to wherever. And, now I need this kid. So I think that's the biggest thing. And for me, the parents that, not to get too caught up in everything else, like let it, like you, dude, I think that's a perfect thing you said. Like there's no correlation between committing on September 1 versus, July of your senior year on your happiness. That's so well said. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it. And we're getting late. Let's talk about the Alliance. Tell me how that's going. Tell me, what's your role? I thought I saw you're like director of something. Sorry, I don't have it. I think I had it down.
Parking.
Yeah. Well, because
hey, give me the keys to your car. You won't get it back.
Exactly. The championship and communications director. Is that what your official title is?
Correct.
Okay. What does that entail? I know Tony's kind of, and I think you even said your bookie mentality's got you, got you thinking a certain way. So explain that.
I think for a lot with anything is I think the format and the competition and the design of it and the heartfelt commitment to trying to make the impact that the Alliance is doing for the athletes and for the sport. I'm driven 100% behind that. And, the communication side of it, championship wise, like that, however that title is really just about making sure that I'm a voice for the sport and being able to be a person that can answer questions, because there is like trying to understand the standings or the format, things like that. I am pretty good when it comes to that stuff. That's why I'm doing Mike's tournament. Like I get formatting and scheduling and, March Madness comes around and brackets are my life and making a few wagers are my life. So the idea of kind of understanding a format and what it is and kind of the fun part of that is where I've helped, maybe be able to kind of translate it to those that are trying to understand it. Yeah. Right. And because not everybody digs too deep, right? They think there's a championship over here. There's a championship over here, and you just get in and you start playing and they don't really know, what that all entails or what a standings is and what you're trying to achieve. So being able to communicate that out and, our sport, bro, it's most coaches are guys that are going to work 8 to 5 and then going to the field, just like we were. And at 5:30, honking the horn, get your ass in the car, go to the cages, stay at the field. Like the last thing they're doing is getting on social media or checking into the bullshit. I know I wasn't. So sometimes they might not understand all of it. Not because they, don't want to or aren't smart enough. It's just because they don't have time to, bro. They're freaking doing their day job. They're raising their family. They're coaching a team. And then they're trying to compete nationally, and they're trying to understand what is Alliance about, what is it that can benefit my team, and, how can it help my players? Because I know that's how I was way back when I was doing this, right? Like that was me at that age. I was honking the horn, going to the field. I didn't really have a clue to kind of the behind the scenes like I do now. I just wanted to be better than everybody. You know what I mean? Like we were going to work and practice and develop and go, and I had to beat Mark Campbell. You know what I'm saying? Like when we were playing, like that was it. Like we had to fucking figure this out. So, I think being able to kind of give that understanding, which again, I think the uniqueness of the format and the idea of kind of replicating the college style of the event and doing seedings and things of that nature, it levels it up in value, and kind of coolness factor, if that's even the way of saying it, to where it's something that for me has always been, I know our athletes have been, excited and motivated by the idea of how those draws going to come out, how that seeding is going to come out, right? And where that's going to be. And then even speaking to the athletes about hey, you may be in a game in Colorado and, not that every game didn't matter before, but you're playing another national level team. And it's hey, this result can dictate so much when it comes to what's going to happen at the end of August, you know what I mean? Or end of July. And, those things are that's kind of more true to the college game, to where it kind of the idea of why, somebody's playing a preseason matchup against somebody is because their RPI matters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what does it mean for when they get not only because they want to be hosting a regional and hosting a super and not going to somebody and playing that game in middle of February down in St. Petersburg, and they get that 3-2 victory over a top 5 or a top 10 now may make a difference between they host a 3-game set at supers versus going somewhere. And I think this, not that it's 1,000% to that level, because we're obviously not colleges and flying all over the country every weekend to play, but it definitely has that replication. So even for talking to college coaches, the idea that these athletes understand the formatting a little bit better, and kind of the weekend, week out, and then the national tournament scope, it's going to be a benefit to our athletes that are going to go to those schools and then be prepared on how to get through supers and regionals and then play, ultimately, for some of them, if they're lucky, at the College World Series.
Yeah. Are there any changes coming up with Alliance? What's new or anything new?
Well, I mean, we're in Indiana, I'm sure you heard that.
Right.
That's kind of been formulated, which, I know those that, the travel side, the financial side, there's always going to be, that, issue per se. Everybody, nobody wants to spend any more money than they have to, but for the scope of the sport and for the competition and the field and the place, dude, it's awesome, bro. And I think we talked about this before. The idea that there's so many fields and that both the 16s and 18s are there, and you can just jump in a golf cart and see everybody play. I mean, so many years I was, getting in my car, getting stuck in traffic, trying to get back to 16s from my 18s, hearing college coaches talk about how they, dude, I didn't get there to the 5th inning. I didn't see that kid throw the first 3 innings, because they couldn't get there, because of the logistics. And, so the idea that you could put everybody in one location, the fields are clean and sweet, you're not going to, you don't have lumpy shit all over or whatever.
Yeah.
So the idea of that, it just makes the competitive side of it, that much better.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. Again, I understand, when someone would say, hey, look, I'm working my ass off and now I got to spend an extra $2,000 to fly to whatever. So there's empathy for sure, but that was going to happen no matter where you put it.
For sure.
Right. Cause not everybody lives wherever the games are.
Right.
Inevitably.
Right.
I mean, and I'm speaking to someone from Arizona who's known the life of having to travel to Southern California for the better part of your summers. Right. And so, the idea that, Southern California is more of the traveling side of it to go to Alliance for that. I think that's been something for our families to kind of understand and respect, families from Arizona, families from Northern California, families from, other states that have had always to travel as opposed to maybe just the one event.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Talk about, you mentioned the format is similar. For those that don't know, quick rundown of what the format is in terms of rounds.
So it's set up just like that. You have regions, right? So like in the NCAA tournament's going to be, you're going to have your 16 different regions, and then you're going to have a winner of those regions that are going to advance out to what would be the super. So two teams are going to come out of that format for that. Okay. That's the different part than college is two teams advance out of it to go into supers. And then it reseeds itself out of that to where those are now playing to get to the Elite Eight, right? Which ultimately becomes that. And it's all based on seeding. So like if, the 1 seed is going to open against, the 64 seed, right? Or depending on the amount of teams that are in the event itself. But you're not going to get a 1-2 matchup in the first game, right? Because it's going to be based upon your year's body of work, which is going to help best position you to hopefully make a deep run and avoid, those teams. Not that anybody can't beat anybody. We all know that, and it's happened to me.
Sure.
But at the same time, if you're Oklahoma and you don't have to play UCLA in the first round and you get to play somebody else, well, that's not UCLA. You probably, on paper would say that's probably better for us.
Right. You've earned it.
The same. What's that?
They've earned it, right? They've earned it.
Exactly. And they've earned it, right? So they've earned that opportunity to kind of get what would be, the most easiest way to logistically get there, right? So I don't say easy because nobody's easy, but it's the format structures it to where when you get down to the Elite Eight, and if you look at the years, it's typically been those teams because the format's going to set it up to where, just like in Oklahoma City, you're not going to have a team get knocked off because, based upon a ping pong ball, Oklahoma had to play UCLA in the second game.
Right.
And now one of them has to lose.
Right.
And then they have to try to retract their way all the way back through.
Win 12 games and then
win 12 games and then they're dead by the time they get there. Right. So, for me, I like the idea that it's a little bit more structured that way. I definitely like the idea that it's structured, that way, and it allows teams to kind of be playing with a purpose throughout the season. We talk about it with our athletes about the idea of, valuing games, even during the early part of the summer, because they're going to be evaluated, right? So when we play those really good teams and we have an opportunity, to make that noise, you want to make it, because that way, just like a college team, they want to have that W over the top 10 opponent. So that way the ranking side of it will reflect it when the brackets come out.
Yeah. Every game matters. And I think that's what college coaches want. Let me ask you this about the brackets. So let's say a 1 does beat, or a 64 does beat a 1, just to use those numbers. Does that, I would think that the 64 should now be in the 1 spot and keep going. But you said it reseeds?
Well, no, so that pod will play itself out. And then they would stay wherever that one team would go.
Yes. Okay. So they would benefit.
So they would benefit. They would stay right there. Cool. So when I say reseed, so what it does is, like, out of those 16 pods, they formulate into, I think it's, I'm trying to remember it as you're talking. I know you're going to ask me this question, or did I not read the email?
My bad.
But eight groups of 4.
Yeah.
Right. And then out of those 8 groups of 4, one team comes out of the 4.
Got it.
Okay. And then that's how you get your 8.
Got it.
So, like, the winner of pod 1 will, like, open with, say, the second place out of pod 16. And then, like, it'll be like that, right? So where you're going to get it. So that 64 team, if they happen to win that first pod, they become what would be that 1 seed.
That's cool. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That was my question. I know some would say, like, well, it's one, you can go 1 game and you got to be on your best, and it's winner go home. But that's not how it is in college. We know that. And I don't, I'm not trying to push one way or the other, but my opinion, how hard is it to win 2 out of 3? Because it's 2 out of 3 at some point, right?
Yes. Once you get to
is it just the
national championship?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did, the first year we did it, it was actually 2 out of 3 in the supers, and that has changed.
Did it take too
long?
long?
That definitely was tough. Like, no, but it was harder. Like, it was fun, bro. I enjoyed it. We played Glory that year with Kevin, and we got him in the 3rd game. And one of the games was an ITB. So, like, it was like 23 innings of freaking, like, intense shit.
Yeah.
So that in itself was fun. But as it played out formatting wise, it became a little bit more challenging than what I think was initially thought. So that side of the best of three plays out when you get to the championship series. Now you could potentially play a team a couple times in the Elite Eight based upon how you fall within if you lose, you win yourself back, whatever. But the 2 out of 3 wouldn't happen till the championship side.
Yeah. Do the Alliance rosters ever lock?
Bro, I'd have to confirm it. They do, but I don't know the confirmed date. Okay. So I don't want to misspeak. Okay.
Yeah, no, just curious. And then my last question on Alliance, and I know you get asked this a lot. It's going to be like $3 million for you. But do you think that, like, is there ever a day where the two main events in the summer are going to work together?
Bro, I think it's probably above my pay grade, but
right.
But I'll take the $3 million.
There you go.
I hope so, bro, because the idea of the best playing the best and playing for, it's better for our sport.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, I pray that point comes in place to where, ultimately people aren't making decisions for convenience and making it for that. They're making it for what they, kind of have a belief in what they do. And I can promise you, like, that's how I make decisions, is within what I believe is true to be the best for myself and our program, and really for our entity. I always talk about entity over individual. You know what I mean? I don't do everything every day just because Sean Brashear wants to do it. I do it because it's going to be what's best for the Brashear entity. And sometimes what's best for the Brashear entity isn't what's best for Sean Brashear. But I do it because I know I need to do it for our program. And for softball, I hope at some point that's the mind that we would all have collectively, that we're making decisions that are best for the sport in totality. And that's a hard thing to achieve because there's so many factors into it. Some of it is finances and family's finances. So, for sure, I'm not sitting here saying that, hey, I know the answer to what that $1 million question or $3 million question is, because I don't, but I know this: I'm a competitor, and the idea of wanting to play everybody is always in the mind.
Right.
And I hope that happens. But again, it's above my pay grade.
Sure. And I always look at it like Scott won it last year, right? And I always wonder if he looks over at the other bracket and goes, damn, that would be a good game against that team.
Oh yeah.
The end of that.
Well, here's the thing: we know that the teams that are those teams are all good enough to beat each other.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
On any certain day.
Oh yeah.
And if you reshuffled, if you reshuffled a PGF event from 9 years ago and reshuffled the bracket, potentially a different team would win. Probably a different team would win. I'm not saying you wouldn't have some of the same teams win, but same thing with Alliance, bro. If you reshuffled it, and last year there was a lot of great teams, and Scotty's team was the best team to win it last year because they played the best. But if you reshuffled it and started it 2 days later, you might end up with a different team winning.
Yep. Didn't get that bounce. Didn't make that play.
100%.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So, and I think at the elite level, like there's a handful of teams that we all know have that potential, and we all want to play each other.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's just, those are the games that you get excited to coach. You know what I mean? Is when like that the other side has everything you have, maybe even more, and that the person in the dugout is equipped to do things against you that you better be ready to know how to have answers for.
Right.
And that's when the game is at its highest level and it's the most fun.
Yeah. No, I love it. You got any final thoughts, man, before we wrap it up? Anything you want to put out there?
No, bro. I think if anything, it's just appreciate you, hitting me up and letting me on. I think it took a little too long. I see all these other fuckers on here and I'm like, okay, this guy's told me so many times how much he likes me, respects me, and, thinks I'm fucking awesome. And I'm like watching show after show. Not that I watched them anyway, because I didn't. I deleted them.
I know.
But I would like pretend like I didn't care. But bro, this is my moment of letting you know that you did hurt my feelings. That it took this long for me to be on the show. And hopefully you get the highest ratings, from this, because that would make me feel real good, especially like if you've had other people on that I could talk shit to.
Yep.
Because that truly, bro, at the end of the day, what makes this more fun than anything is being able to talk shit.
Well, right? You want to win.
We all know this.
You want to win.
We're all competitive. We've all been in locker rooms. And the fun part of whoever and whatever any of this stuff is being able to look across the field, talk some shit to whether it's Dave Mercado or Scotty Smith or Marty Tyson, and for them to talk shit back to us.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, it's fun.
Yep.
Right. And that's the other reason I enjoy it. I enjoy competing against you, talking shit to you.
Yep.
Like I am right now.
All
so
you
again,
guys.
you
Yep.
fucking left me to hanging out here for fucking,
Yep.
How long has this show been on? What number is this?
Number 37.
30. Oh no, here's good karma.
You're 37.
Yeah, I'm 30. Yeah, 37. Bro, what's funny is Cheese, Megan, she wore number 37 for us. So bro, that's a good number. But no, honestly, bro, you're awesome. And our sport, I love softball. And I just hope that we continue to make the steps forward for all these young athletes. And it's better today than it was 20 years ago when, I first started with this, and opportunities that are there for the kids and for the female athletes. And, being a father of 2 daughters, that matters to me. And then ultimately looking forward in 20 or 30 years, what's coming next, right? We want it to be better than what it was when we started, and that's my goal. I hope that the legacy of, guys like you and myself that can be there for others that want to pick it up and carry it. So that way the sport can continue to be the successful, go to the successful platforms that it deserves to be on, because it's awesome, bro. Like knowing the numbers that we get at the World Series, all that stuff. That's awesome. You know what I mean? It shows you that there's a lot of good people making a difference. And obviously, especially for the athletes that are playing at the level that they do.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, bro. We've been talking for a long time. You've been a good friend of me. And I know you would keep it real. I'm going to remind, the producers to put an explicit, content on the wrapper. I love it. I knew I'd get the real Sean. Dude, I really appreciate you coming on, bro. It's always a pleasure, always fun to chat with you. Look forward to seeing you next weekend.
We'll see you next week, bro. And again, appreciate what. Hey, I don't want to have to fucking wait till like number 137. We have to do it again.
We'll do it again.
Some point. Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I'm telling you, when you got to start your own, and I'll help you. Like I'm putting it out there. Anybody who wants to do it, I'll share everything. I actually think I'm gonna make a video that shows everything that I use. It's not rocket science. I did spend a lot of time figuring it out.
Well, you're doing it.
Hey, right? That tells you everything you need to know. All right, bro. Hey, I just want to say thanks for listening. We will continue working to elevate the sport and get caught up with those who are influential in the fast pitch community. And hopefully we can help you navigate your softball journey. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Caught Up with Randy Kaye, using handle @CoachKAZ. You can listen to the audio version of our podcast on Google, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you consume your favorite content.
Do I get paid for this?
You do. You can also follow us on X and on Instagram using the handles @CoachKAZ. Thanks for listening.
This one's for my wife. Could have left 1,000 times just about myself.